Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sacred Souls podcast. I'm Ariel Heather, and my background might look different today because I'm actually in Vegas. This is where my travels have taken me to today. I know that each episode I'm in a different background, but I'm actually in a professional setting, so I'm super excited about that. And today I really wanted to talk to you guys and kind of do a tell all about my breast cancer journey because I've posted so much of it online, but it's always just pieces here and there. And especially on TikTok, I get so much flack and pushback. And I've actually been threatened to be banned a lot of the time for sharing my story, but I will not be silenced. And I feel like with my own podcast, like I could just say whatever I want, whenever I want. So I'm just going to tell you everything, and especially the stuff that I can't share on there. I want to add that I am not a doctor and I'm not giving medical advice, and I'm not even telling people what to do. Like sometimes on TikTok, people get offended and they get really upset because they tell me that, or they're interpreting it that I'm telling them what to do, but I'm really not. I'm honestly just sharing my story and what I went through. And so that you just know that there is a different way to do things if you want to, if you don't. And although I did not do chemo or radiation, I never shame anyone for doing that. I truly think that you should do whatever is true for you and your body. And that's the whole point. I didn't feel like it was good for me, so that's why I didn't do it. But if you feel like it's good for you, then definitely go with that. So 5 years ago, I was living in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I was just laying on my bed with my laptop on my stomach. I was watching The Office, actually, and I just went like this to brush my hair off my chest, and I felt a lump. And I was like, okay, what is that? And my breast doctor, I've already had one for years, who was located in LA because I have the BRCA1 gene. And so if you are familiar with that, they do say that if you have that gene, supposedly you have an 87% chance of getting breast cancer in your lifetime. So I always just had that doctor on the back burner. And so when I found this lump, I called her and I was like, hey, what should I do? And she was like, well, since you're in Arizona, just go to an ultrasound or radiology place there and have them look at it, and then they'll send me the results. So I went to do that, and it was literally the next day that they got me in. And the reason why I say this is because I've heard a lot of horror stories from different women who have gone through breast cancer, and they tell me that this whole process takes them sometimes weeks or even months. And I just think that's so ridiculous. So I went there, I did the scan, and they aren't not allowed to tell you the results, obviously, at the time because they're not your doctor, but they did say that they found a tumor. But honestly, at the time, I wasn't worried because I'm not a fear-based person. I just didn't think that, there was nothing to worry about. So they send her the results, and literally the next day she calls me, and it was a Thursday, and she was like, okay, I don't have work tomorrow, but I will come in. If you can come here, I will biopsy this for you. So the fact that she said that she would come in on her day off and give me a biopsy, like I was a little bit concerned at that point. So I get in the car with my dog and we drive from Arizona to LA. And again, this is like now just in less than a week's span. So I do the biopsy, and then the next day I'm driving back from LA to Arizona, and she calls me as I'm driving. I remember exactly where I was. I was right near Palm Springs. And she says, you have the deadliest form of breast cancer. And I was just completely shocked. And especially because, mind you, I'm driving. But I was like, okay, so what does this mean? Like, what, are we gonna have like surgery or something? And she was like, surgery, like that's the minimum. We're talking chemo, radiation. And I'm like, okay, hold on a second, because everything just felt so overwhelming. And so she started to tell me all the statistics and all the outcomes that her patients had who did the chemo and the radiation and the surgery and all these different things. And I was like, okay, well, what does it look like for those patients who didn't do that? And she was like, I've never had a patient who didn't do it that way. And so gave me a lot to think about. But as I was driving back to Arizona, I was thinking like, I might be that patient. So I get back to Arizona, and I honestly felt like I was living in a nightmare. I could not sleep all night. And as you guys know, if you follow me, I am very intuitive and very connected with my spirit team. And so I was up all night stressing out, and I was trying to connect to my intuition to figure out what to do. But when you're so upset, sometimes it's hard to just clearly hear what's going on. So after just overthinking all night and just being so upset because I really did not want to do chemo or anything like that, I just had this vision basically of me dead from chemo. And as if I didn't already have, like enough of resistance towards it in the first place. Like this kind of solidified pretty much that I did not want to do it even more because I do trust my intuition. So at the time, just coincidentally or not so coincidentally, I actually was moving back to California. So that the next week I was moving back and I was like, all right, let me just hear out the oncologist. So I went, and I used to be a journalist, and so I am very much into research. I never take anything that someone tells me for face value. Like I always have to dig deeper. And so when she started telling me about all these things about chemo, I was questioning her and I was asking a ton of questions, and she definitely did not like this at all. Like you could just tell that what I was saying was making her angry, and she just wanted me to go quietly into the night. And I was like, I am not going to do that. And so I asked her, I said, okay, this is like after she told me the long list of all the problems that chemo will give you, including death. I was like, well, what is the percentage that the chemo would even help me? And she said 12%. And for me, like, that's nothing. So I actually told my breast doctor about that, and she was like, oh, that's really high. And I was like, what do you mean? And she said that the national average of people who commit to chemo is 3%. So that means that if someone thinks that there's even a 3% chance that chemo can help them, they will commit to it. So that's why she thought the 12% was high. But for me, I was like, no, that's not high enough at all. So I told the oncologist that I was going to do some more research and I was going to think about it. And she literally laughed me out of her office. And I'm not going to say her name, but this is a very popular doctor in LA. And after that, I was just like, okay, I'm never seeing her again. And honestly, once I declined chemo, she basically said she did not want to see me again either. So the feelings were mutual. So obviously doing an unconventional path and turning down chemo and radiation, my breast doctor, who I did actually love, and she was so supportive throughout the whole thing, she was like, well, if you're not going to do that, then we need to go straight to surgery because we have to get the tumor out. So that's what I did. I went to get a double mastectomy with implant reconstruction, which is where they do implants at the same exact time. It's a 6-hour surgery. And even though it's more intense, like you don't have to do it that way, but I'm kind of an intense person. And I was like, I don't like surgery to begin with. I had never actually had surgery. So I was like, I might as well just do it all at once and get this over with. So I did do that. And side note that I'll talk about in a different episode, but a month and a half after getting the implants, I got breast implant illness and I ended up getting them taken out, which I'm so happy about the decision. But following this unconventional path, it wasn't necessarily easy because everyone around me was telling me something different than what I was thinking. I mean, they were basically saying the same thing. They were saying I should do chemo and radiation. And I just felt like it's easy for you to say that to me, but like you're not the one who's actually doing it, And so I just had to really stay firm in my decision and that trust in my intuition that I knew that what I thought, like that vision I saw and that feeling that I had was right. And this specific breast cancer, it wasn't caused by your hormones or your diet, because I've always worked out all the time. I've always ate really healthy. This specific breast cancer has to do with stress. And that's also one of the reasons why it is the most aggressive. So I just felt like if I potentially caused this to happen in my body, then I could also heal it myself as well. And so that's what I decided to do. I went after my surgery when I was recovering. I just immediately went on this deep dive for years to just kind of rewire, reprogram, and do my spiritual healing, emotional healing, all of those things to clear anything that was affecting me. I was in survival mode. I was in fight or flight. And since breast cancer has to do with your heart chakra, and this can help you guys, like if you do have any heart chakra issues, it doesn't have to be breast cancer. It could be lung issues. It could be even like in your back in this upper area. It could be heart issues, anything like that, or even just pain. It doesn't have to be something like as serious as cancer. Those things have to do with giving and receiving. So on our left side is receiving, and that's the feminine. And then on the right side is the masculine, and that's giving. And my tumor was on the right side. And I've always been someone who's more in the masculine to begin with. Like I'm very type A, go, go, go. And I give a lot. And I don't always, well, I'm getting better at it now, but I haven't always been like the best receiver. Like if someone wanted to do something for me, I would be like, no, please don't do that. So those were some of the things that I had to work on. And if you are having any heart chakra issues, those are things that you can look at as well. So a lot of times people ask me, like, what exactly did you do naturally to heal this? And I obviously, like, it's not just something I can just tell someone in one sentence because it's a longer process, but some main things that I had to do that have to do with the heart chakra. So this is something to keep in mind for yourself. I had to do a lot of forgiveness and a lot of work with compassion because, again, with the heart chakra, it means if it is out of alignment, you are holding on to a lot of resentment and anger. And I definitely was, for sure. I was someone who held grudges, and now I do not do that anymore, mostly. But I just really had to work on basically forgiving anyone that I had a grudge against and that I was harboring, any resentment towards, because it was literally killing me. And that took a lot of work to do. And on top of that, I just had to have compassion for myself, most of all, and for other people. And it really helped me have this mindset shift because once I started doing this work and more of like the spiritual clearing, I just realized like everyone is wounded. We all have flaws. And when I look at like people who had hurt me or anything that like caused trauma on me, I'm like, okay, they were just like the wounded masculine or the wounded feminine. And not that, makes it okay, but it really helped me just kind of have a perspective shift, and it helped me lead to more forgiveness. I do want to mention that with this specific breast cancer, it's called triple negative. They say that you have this 5-year window where there's a 30% chance, at least this was for me, that it could come back at stage 4 within the 5 years. But if you make it past the 5-year mark, you are 100% in the clear. And that's even when you do chemo and radiation. And for me, the 5-year mark was this past November. So I have officially, overcome it and survived it. And that's why I feel so passionate about talking about it now, is because I have a complete story and I have proof that what I did actually worked. And just to give you some context, I had met 5 women online, just virtually in different forums when I was first diagnosed, and they also had the same exact breast cancer. They all did chemo and radiation. They all did the recommended treatment, and they all sadly ended up dying. So just because you do chemo and radiation doesn't mean that that's like necessarily the, fail-safe like way to go. And if you guys ever hear Dr. Zach Bush, I follow him, and he was talking about one time how chemo always gets, I don't know what you would call it, but it always gets passed through, like approved through the FDA, like every single time that there's some update, and that there's not enough people who've had cancer who haven't done chemo to see if it could actually be healed without it. So there's just not enough data. But I feel like I am someone who you can see where like I didn't do it and I still ended up beating it. And it's not because like I didn't do anything. Like I said, I really did do the inner work. And I do think that everything starts with our mindset. And you can get like all the surgeries you want in the world, but it doesn't mean that you're actually fixing something from like the core soul level or the core wound in yourself. I want to quickly address something that some hate comments that I get on TikTok. Some people have been saying that I am making this up and that they were comparing me to the apple cider vinegar girl, who I didn't even know who that was until I saw the comments. But I'm not asking for any money or for anything. I have literally like no agenda. So I'm not sure why people think that what would be my motive of making this up? I don't have a GoFundMe. I've already healed it. I'm not like telling anyone to do anything specific. So if you think that, like maybe there's something like work you should look within for, because I don't know like what the reason would be for me making this whole thing up. Something that surprises a lot of people is that I always tell them that I'm so happy that I actually got breast cancer. And that's because it honestly has changed my life for the better. The like life I was living and the path that I was going down before it, like I didn't, if you asked me beforehand if I was stressed, I would say no. Like I honestly didn't think I was stressed. I didn't think there was any issue whatsoever. But that's how I think stressed I was and how long I was living in survival mode that I actually thought that was the norm. And now, like once basically like breast cancer was this huge wake up call. And I think that that's what it is, in my opinion, for everyone. It's like you can look at it as a wake up call and you can kind of have this second chance to redo a lot of things in your life and reflect and look at yourself, or you can, let it overtake you. And I know that it is scary and there's a lot of emotions involved, but if you can, have resources and tools to get through that part, like I promise it'll be better on the other side. One of the biggest messages and takeaways that I really want from my story is for you to always just listen to yourself over everyone else. Like no one knows you better than you and your intuition. Everyone is always going to have an opinion no matter who you ask. Like the surgeon's always going to say do surgery. The oncologist is always going to say do chemo and insert whatever industry, you want to. But like all of the answers. And that's what I try to empower people so much with my work. Like even when people have sessions with me, they're always like, oh, can you just tell me all the answers or like what I should do with my life and this and that. And I don't like to do that. What I do is I tell people I channel different paths that they can take. And then I tell them, here's it all laid out in front of you. And then now you choose which one you want for you, because I really think it's disempowering to just have someone tell you all the answers or to have someone tell you what to do with your life. Because again, like we all have that innate wisdom inside and we truly do know what's best for ourselves, and especially when it comes to healing ourselves. I always mention this in any of my posts that I do, but if you guys are going through breast cancer or any illness like that, or even breast implant illness, just literally anything, like please feel free to reach out to me. I help so many people with this, even just like advice and stuff like that. And even if you were just recently diagnosed, I've helped so many people think of like what questions to ask the doctors too, because I know that it's so scary for some people and so overwhelming that their mind goes blank. And a lot of times, like when I've told people what I've asked the doctors, they're like, oh, I didn't even know to ask that, or like, I don't even know what to ask. So please use me as a resource. And if you do need anything, please either DM me, email me. I'll put all my information in the show notes. So I'm always here for you guys. So thank you so much for listening. And I will see you guys in the next episode.